fit you into an existing
Yeah.
meeting instead of having to call a special one, so you guys get what you need sorted
Yeah,
out.
I'd be happy to push that through, that any schedule in advance is a bonus for me as well, so sure,
And we're
I
happy to
will
work
push
with
that.
you any way we can, but that might work with both of us.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the historical? Easy?
Just one comment.
Yes, sir.
I've talked to Nate about it, just for the record. Next year is the 90th anniversary of the NM fleet. And perhaps we can plan ahead for something special as it happens with the blessing of the fleet.
Very well, yes.
It's a wonderful idea. I look forward to talking more about it.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you for coming. And congratulations on
All right,
the event. Well done.
I'm gonna go write some thank you notes, so.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Do comment if you, like, not on this issue. My name is Ty Toddy. I'm a resident here for 3 years now. Been cruising up here for since 1972. And I have a marine business on the side for my main business. I've noticed in the last few years, as you all have, that there's been a reduction not only in the income of the harbor, but in the size and number of boats that we've had in the harbor. In particular, we have empty slips, wells, whichever you call it, whereas Charlevoix, Bay Harbor, and Petoskey are full. And I checked last year and this year on that. When cruising people start to come up to think about coming to Harbor Springs, especially if they haven't been here, it's difficult. You come from Detroit, you come from Chicago, you come from Flint, you come from wherever, Frankenmuth, Michigan. To come here is difficult because we don't have a reservation system. And to make that effort to come here and not have a slip is difficult for families and for people. That's one of the issues. The second issue is, as a result, or part of the atmosphere that we have today is electricity. We have limited amounts of 220 power in the harbor today, whereas most of the boats, and I checked with Pete Beauregard, who is part of the new group with here with Wallstrom's, most of the boats over 36 to 38 feet today require two 110s or two 20 power. The other part of that issue is the reputation that people my age and my children have as an example, and maybe yours too. It's just hard to get in here. Mike does everything he can do to help people getting in, but that reputation is out there. The other part of it is, you can say, well, come and anchor here. Well, the only areas that you can come and anchor here with the sheriff or the regulation department is in deep water. And when I talk about deep water, I'm talking 60 feet minimum, 80 feet. When you talk anywhere from 5 to 10 times the anchor load that you need for any boat, depending upon the size and the weight, that's a lot of line and a lot of anchor chain, et cetera. And you need that, especially if we have some weather. Stop me at any time if you have any questions on what I'm saying here. The limitation of people getting in here, how does it hurt the city? Well, it hurts the city and it hurts the merchants that I've talked to, the restaurants, the boat people like myself, maybe like you people, or people that are out, their acquaintances or their family or the people that they know there's a resistance in coming up here because of that, of what I've gone over. Our two marine facilities here also noticed a decrease from years past in the volume because of the fact that the people that come here are marine people. And what do when they have time off? They go to the showrooms that are available in the used boats, et cetera. What's the solution? Well, the solutions are twofold, in my opinion. One is a limited, and I've talked to Mike about this a little bit, a limited reservation system to see how it goes. To be frank with you, there's a cost involved, a cost in having a system. One, there's a cost for Mike because he's going to have to be training people, so an increase in salary for our harbor master. That would be on that side of the coin. The other side of the coin would be for the city in increasing the 220 power that's available on the dock. When people don't have 220 power, what happens on the bigger boats? They run their generators. When they run their generators, what happens with that? First guy that finds out is Mike. The people in the vicinity object to the noise and the smoke. I have a lot of other notes, but I know you have a busy meeting, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Those are what I see as the problems. What I see as the possible solutions. It's a situation that you as committee, I would think, would have to make to the city from the cost standpoint of the system and the 220.
Appreciate your comments, Guy.
Forgot something. When I first started coming up here, we used to have to come 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of time to get a slip. To get in by July 4th, we had to be here 2 weeks ahead of time. Today, you have open slips in the harbor. As of July 4th this year, that we went in our little boat for cocktail cruise. We always take a peek at that.
So your last comment, Ty, I was harbor master at the city shortly after you started coming here, and you're right. We had a waiting list of 40 boats every night.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't have the e-stock, so we had significantly fewer slips. We didn't have two docks that Petoskey now has 4, 2 of them weren't there. We didn't have Bay Harbor. So times have changed. And I think we're all very cognizant of the numbers. And actually, we have had increases every year since I looked at 2018 in our revenue. Some of that's because the rates have gone up, but some of that's also because of business. The number of boats I don't have on here.
You might not want to, you might not, I don't think for sure, and Mike would be better off to answer this. I think you ought to get into it slowly, like.
Well, why don't you let me finish
I'm sorry.
on that. So we haven't seen a dramatic loss in revenue year to year as you were alluding to. What I have seen, and it's actually more pronounced this year than I have seen in a long time, is we have had more open slips after the 4th than I've seen in years here. And I don't know, Michael's going to have a report on numbers at the end of this meeting. We'll find out where we are with cash. But there certainly is something going on with that. And we have looked at the reservation system at this table numerous times over the years. And it has had constraints on it that didn't fit right with us. And we didn't really have a real reason to go into it because we were able to fill all the slips on that, which is our goal. Our goal is to make money for the city, drive people into the town on that, and do the best job we can with it. But this year something is different. And whether it's the lack of the reservation system or something else, we're going to have to take a little peek at that and see. So your comments, I think, are generally appropriate, other than we are still raising more revenue every year than we have in the past. But something has happened just in the last couple of years. And And we need to start thinking about that.
On that situation, if you had larger boats, you'd have much higher revenue. The revenue would be for the power as well as the slip. And you're creating more money, but it's hard to evaluate that. As far as the reservation system is concerned, I would think you might want to start with 25% of your slips. Let's say you have 50 slips available, say 25% of them, or roughly 10 to 12 wells. We also have, as Mike knows, and a good friend of mine, a fellow by the name of Gary Borowski. He was influential when he was harbor commissioner for the state of Michigan in the implementation of the state of Michigan harbor reservation system. And he will be up here at the end of this month, and yes, end of July.
And Mike has been paying attention to that system. In fact, the last time you looked at it, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, the state wanted us to have at least 80% of our transient wells available for that system.
Correct. Yep.
Which was a mandatory requirement that they had. And that, that's not just a step in, that's a full plunge on that thing. And as far as larger boats go, we're a first come, first served rate. We don't tell a guy with a 20-footer he can't come in because a guy with a 60-footer is on his way
I
in.
understand.
And that's, that approach still makes sense. And part of-
No, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish your point.
Part of the problem we saw in the past with the reservation system were people who would reserve them and then not show, and the system wouldn't allow the harbor master to fill those. And if we had people floating around the harbor, we'd have empty slips, which we got revenue for, but nobody going to town to New York because the guy.
They've gone through that a little bit. I know a little bit about the system. I don't know as much as Gary Borowski might want to talk to this group about that. I believe now, unless you're there at 3 o'clock, it's a no-show. And there's a fine on that. In other words, you pay ahead of time for your slip. And there's a percentage that I think is about 25%. If you don't show, you lose it completely. If you call, it's still, you still are charged 25% of what it costs. Let's say it costs $50. Then after 3 o'clock, at least $12.50 of that would be a charge to the person for it. If they don't show at all and don't make the call, then they lose completely. There's no next day reverberation or refund on that.
I think we all understand how that works. That still leaves an empty slip, even though the city got the revenue, where a boat that has people in it that would go to town and have dinner isn't able to get into because of that. So there's reasons why we are where we are with this. But what I've noticed this summer is more empty slips than we should have. And it's caused actually, we need to start thinking about what's going on. And I think maybe part of it is the reservation system and or lack of it. So
Well,
we'll deal with that.
and Jim, to council, it's the past. The people have, it has that reputation. You can't get in here, one, and two, you don't have the 220 that discourages people from coming that are even here. Even in people in the area. And the anchoring problem. If you can't get in, then you have to anchor, and that's a real problem now. And the sheriff doesn't allow you to go into the areas where there are buoys, which is where the best anchoring is. Which you can't anchor a big boat in there with a number of buoys that are there.
No, but there's other
Possible
spots. There's folks who anchor. I anchor out there regularly. And if you were there on the 4th of July, there was probably 20 boats anchored out there. So.
Chair, I would recommend maybe we either table this or direct staff to look into it further or just
Was there
push
any
it out.
comments from this? I'm glad I brought this up because it's timely.
I looked at the DNR's reservation system earlier today, and there were open slips in Petoskey. And I looked at the webcam on the yacht club in Bay Harbor, and I'd guesstimate they had a couple 100 feet of open dock with no boats on it. I was not able to figure out the actual Bay Harbor Marina, but I know that they added a whole bunch of slips in the last couple of years. So some of the demand is being absorbed over there. And again, things take time, these patterns develop over time. I guess another point that I would make is the town basically emptied out after the 4th. I don't know if it's because the 4th was on a Tuesday and it's just the rhythm of the Saints or what it was, but I forget which day. It might have been Tuesday. The New York was closed, Teddy's was closed, the pier was closed. We went in at like 5:30 to Pearson's and the place was half empty. There should have been like 1,000 extra people looking for dinner and they weren't there. So I don't know that it's just the lack of a reservation system. Sometimes there's an ebb and flow to.
Maybe starting a recession.
Well, for as long as I've been around here, they've said that if you could figure out the traffic patterns in the restaurant business around here, you'd be the king of the world. And it's just, even the people that have done it for decades, one day it's packed and the next day there's nobody around and it's fairly mysterious. We'll have to watch the patterns over time.
I appreciate your comments.
Yeah,
It is
thank you.
thinking, and they're timely. We've had some discussions already on some of those, so I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Any other public comment? Yeah, Bob.
I'm here to represent Boeing Thunder. I think you all know about Boeing Thunder and what we do. I wanted to thank the city, Chief Knight, the Harbor Commission, Irish Boat for allowing us to use the harbor again this year. A huge success. We couldn't do it without you folks. Checks will be written this week to Challenge Mountain and Camp Courage for around $700,000. We remain the biggest support for Camp Courage, and we couldn't do it without you. Irish supplied some manpower, you supplied the Harbor Patrol, the city, the harbor. Thanks very much. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to do business with you every year. We look forward to it. At meetings, sometimes we discuss changing routes, and Harbor Springs is one that the voters adamantly refuse to change.
That's because you're giving them a gurneys whenever you get in the car. You're a smart guy.
They insist on coming here, so thank you all. We appreciate you. Thank you.
I was at the dock during the entire pickup and it ran very well. So hats off to you guys too for making that work. And we're
The
glad
E-Stock
to.
survived the crowd.
Pardon me?
The E-Stock survived the crowd.
It actually had probably gone down about 6 inches as I ran out with the dinghy. and-
The water was up? No.
We were out there. It was a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
It was low.
This was the biggest fleet. We had 120 signed, 118 left Charlevoix. I don't know how many made it to Harbor Springs. Some of the big ones can't carry enough fuel to make it here and back, so they dropped.
Which is crazy.
We had a number of 4,000 horsepower boats this year. Thank you.
Bob, is there some talk, is there a finite number, maximum capacity of number of boats?
Yeah, we hold it at 120,
Okay, good. That's good.
and we had 5 or 6 on the waiting list.
Good.
Thanks, Bob.
Any other questions? Bob? No other public comment?
Well, we have Bob here. Thank you for the job you've been doing down at the lunch ramp. It's been great to have you down there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Old business. Last meeting, we formed a Ford Park ad hoc committee headed up by Bill McCullough. You want to update us where we are? Yeah.
We've had a few email exchanges and about a 40-minute sit-down meeting between the various folks where we've tossed around notions of what the various issues may be at Ford Park, things that can be done to improve safety, improve traffic flow, improve the accessibility for trailerable boats and the community at large. We have no conclusions at this point in time. We are in the throwing ideas around. Some of the thoughts that some of the biggies are improving the the safety and the traffic flow along, if you look at the image up there, along what would be the south side there, there's a road that's barely 20 feet across. The asphalt's been there for quite a while. The ground is not as firm as it might be. Over the years, there've been increasing pressures in that corner by Irishes for other uses. That photo doesn't show the ferry dock or the dock that Wallstrom's Dock and Dredge uses, but it's pretty accurate otherwise. Some of the thoughts that we've had is we want to maintain as many trailerable spots as are there now, but perhaps reconfigure it. The demand for trailer spots is actually higher on the east side where we don't have as many spots as we could than it is on the west side. We also don't have really very many car parking spots compared to the demand for car parking spots. We have a fair amount of green space that's not being used for any purpose whatsoever. And we're also considering the traffic flow of people on foot to try to reduce the amount of intersection between foot traffic and vehicle traffic. And we have not gotten to anything resembling conclusions or budgets or any of that sort of thing yet. We're in the conceptual, do we want to do stuff? If we do, what do we want to do stage? So any members of the public that wanted to weigh in, we'd be happy to hear from. I'm hoping at some point down the road, we'll hear from Bob, who's going to be our man on the ground watching the current state of affairs there. And that's about where we are at this point in time.
Just got started.
Just getting started. Now, I did put in some photographs just to kind of get the imagination and the ideas going. There's a kind of a panorama of a very nice place to have a picnic that nobody ever goes to, that could be used for parking, traffic flow, any one of a number of things. Go ahead, Victor, just kind of flip through. That's looking towards the point. That's the entryway with signage. That's where the kayaks are currently stored. Same thing looking the other way. That is the kayak launch rack with the groovy little, what do we call that thing?
Kayak launch.
Yeah, kayak launch. So it's actually, I haven't used it. I don't know, but I have seen people use it.
It's great.
It makes it simple for someone who might not be as agile as they once were to pull a kayak in and be able to get in and out. It's steady the thing. There's various infrastructure that we have to take into consideration. There's a view of where we could put more parking. It's also the only shade we've got for the most part. There's some lovely willow trees. That's looking at the launch ramp. Another panorama. That is from the Wallstrom Dock and Dredge dock looking north. That's looking towards Irish's from the green space by the sidewalk.
That's not.
That's what could happen if we don't put a lid on it. That was a great day. I was down there. I've been impressed this year about, I've been going through there a lot, and frequently there's nobody in those trailer parking spots. The ones by Irish's are the least desirable for the trailer users because they want to be able to go park after they come out and stage after they come out. But there were more people fishing there than there were boating. That was this year leading up to the 4th of July. That is backed up. That's Mackinac looking north. So
Is that our problem too? Do we have to work on that?
No, I'm just, that could become our problem if we get too popular. I don't think we're there yet. But just to talk about the ebb and flow, and here we are looking for a place, looking for a place to launch our boat in. That's in Florida somewhere. But the point of that was that the ebb and flow of people in Michigan, in my opinion, over the years has become much more concentrated. It's like everybody wants to be up here on the same weekend, and then 3 days later, they're all gone. You know, it's not, it's like dining is even that way. It used to be some people would eat at 5 and some people would eat at 8. Now everybody wants to eat at 6:30 or something like that. Seems. This was the high water that we had not very many years ago. That's at the corner where the Wallstrom Dock and Dredge is. It's basically to the top of the ramp there. The launch sign is in the water and we've got water washing up on the grass. So that's a consideration as we move on. There's a lovely picnic spot again that hardly ever gets used. Same looking, that's looking northeast or west. There's a view towards the dock. That's where the car parking on the Irish side of the thing is. That's the corner where people try to make the turn. That's the building that has been there since probably what, the 60s?
Oh, no. We-
Much more than that.
It was remodeled in the 70s.
Yeah, so that building has been
That's the
there
old water.
for forever, yeah. That is what's behind the Cedars, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, right there.
It's a generator, a lift pump for sewage. Again, more green space that never gets used. That's the street side. That is the next to the Graham property. That's a lady who pulled up and parked her bicycle in the street. Right where the traffic would go if you were pulling out and going from one side to the other. That's a lady who dropped off her dog do in the public facility there. These were two scantily clad young ladies who apparently couldn't make it upwind and got picked up over by the point and they got dropped off there. So just kind of the wide range of uses that facility sees. That's the dock to the Wallstrom Dock and Dredge puts in temporarily so that they can access the shoreline there. That's a view, I believe that's from 1969. You can see the building is if you're trying to orient.
Still there.
So that's Irish Boat Shop and the kayak launch and the building that is still there all those years ago. Aerial view, I think that's where we started. So we will come back with some suggestions going forward, but at this point in time, we're just gathering input.
Great. Any questions?
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. On to new business, Michael, Harbor Master.
To Ty's point from before, our entire west dock is now 220 on both sides of the power pole, along with 30s. And we also have several slips on the east wall that have 50 and 30 on both sides of the power pole. So our 220 is probably up to snuff with everybody else around us, I think, power supply wise. So 220, I don't think is keeping big boats away. Just
I
answer that.
respectfully disagree with you. Firstway Yacht Club is having a rendezvous up at Clarendon Mountain Lodge with 48 boats. And of the 48 boats, there are 37 that have power. If we were to come up here, 220 power,
We have 220 all the way up and down the west dock.
then that's new since I've been here.
It was here when you were here last time.
It was there when I was Harbor Master. And there's 220 on the east dock too, once you get out to the bigger sons.
East side of, but the east dock, aren't those mostly seasonal wells?
Yep. And they all have 220.
Well, yeah, but those are transient wells. What I call transient wells.
Our transient wells on the west dock have 220.
How many?
Every single slip on the west dock has 220 available to it, including the wall. But anyway, that's just to fill you in on that one, so. Anyway, July 4th went great. We had a full dock. Lucas and his staff and also the DPW folks did a great job as well, picking up trash afterwards and also helping us out beforehand. And we had the porta potties down there, which helped lead the load in the back of the building, which was great. And the staff, my staff did a great job with the courtesy dock, making sure that was utilized just with that 2-hour time limit. It seemed to work really well.
You really did on that, Michael. That was good work.
Yeah, they did really well with that. pretty warm out there, but they all did a good job. I gave them an umbrella and 2 chairs, so they were happy. Regatta fleet this year is already at 100 boats. We're gonna have 39 of those boats at our dock, 39 over 40 feet, which is why I'm here to seek your permission from the Harbor Commission to utilize the east dock, the east wall for the regatta fleet. We're gonna need that space to accommodate all those 39 boats, so if that's okay with you, I'd like to continue what we did last year as well.
Somebody have a problem with that?
No.
So that starts on Thursday?
Pardon me?
That starts on Thursday?
The regatta itself starts on Friday, the 28th.
Yeah.
And we'll start bringing boats to the dock, and Iris is gonna have some boats as well, beginning the 27th, so may even have some early arrivals before that.
So Michael,
I'm
are you
sorry.
gonna double up the boats on the east wall of the east dock?
I prefer not to. We'll be doubling up on the west side of the
West
dock.
side of the
Yes, yep. If we have to, we will double up on the east dock, but I try to stay away from that, especially if it's gonna be out of the east.
Yeah, it's a nasty spot.
We end up with it being lumpy, so. Our boat count through this date in 2022 is 195, and that includes some double registrations. This year, we're at 191 boats through the season. Our revenue.
Sorry, I didn't.
Sorry. Boat count, total boat count was at 191 as of today, and 195 last year, so we're pretty similar numbers.
So we're almost identical.
We're almost identical.
Where are we in cash?
Pardon me?
What about
That's
cash?
coming up right now. Revenues through this date in 2022 are at $59,000. As of today, we're at $69,000. So we're up from last year by about 10%.
Now, we did have an increase in our rates, so that's gonna count for some of it, but we're,
And we also had a lot of people, as I talked about at the June meeting, take advantage of our unlimited stay. Once they're in the water through, you can come on May 1st and stay in the water through July 5th without having to move your boat. So that worked out really well for us. And we had 27 boats here from Boyne City Yacht Club, which is a real shot in the arm.
really filled the.
That mid-June, yeah. Launch ramp seasonal permit sales and the new sticker program has been really well accepted by most folks buying permits. They think that the sticker's been a great call for Bob as well, and you guys checking trailers at the launch ramp. They're so much more visible and so easier to remember to not have to have your hang tag in your car. You disappear on the dashboard, end up in a different car, so that's worked out really well. Seasonal permit sales are at almost $10,000, and our daily launch ramp fees are a little bit under $3,000. So launch ramp's been pretty successful this year so far.
Is that pretty well in line with last year?
Very much in line with last year, and probably a little bit of an increase in the seasonal sales as well, so. And that's what we've got. We're looking forward to a great regatta. The 52s will be here mid-August. And a lot of those boats, probably 7 of the 9 are gonna be staying with us right from regatta, right through the end of their event on the 13th of August, so. We're in good shape. Yep.
Any questions for Michael? Seems like we're holding our own, if not a little better, so that's good.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a good season so far, and the staff's been working out really well.
What's your commentary on this reservation system? What have you learned?
My commentary?
Yeah, do you have any? I know we don't use one and
Personally, I think first come, first served has been working with us for a lot of years. I know we disappoint some people not being able to get to the dock, but it seems to have worked pretty well for us and continues to work well. If we could guarantee space to people, I think that might see an uptick in business, but it's been working so far. And it'd be a hard system to implement percentage-wise if we did 25%. We could get used to it, but if we can persist with what we have right now, I think it works in our favor. And JB's point, we talked about this the other day, that we're kind of like at the end of the road for boats coming south from Mackinac City or, all the way around from Detroit. They usually end up in Charlevoix, Leland, Northport, anybody that's a little more straight line from Mackinac City. We're the end of the road at that point, so.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Another month of hard work, huh? And a little more.
And then Labor Day.
Victor,
Yeah, really quick. So remember 2 years ago, we changed our Harbor Commission rules to, instead of limiting commercial licenses at Ford Park to 4, that they come to Harbor Commission for review. 45 North would be our fifth. They accepted for an application, they just haven't turned it in, but I guess I want to get your review ahead of time before they turn the application in. That way I can just sign off on it if you guys think it's all right to issue another commercial license at Ford Park for 45 North. I did get a concern from someone who launches boat down there, that there are several companies not operating, so I emailed several companies that don't have a license that may be operating there, letting them know that, hey, we have these new rules, you have to get a license, it has to be reviewed by the Harbor Commission and signed off on. We no longer have a limit of 4, but they have to be reviewed by the Harbor Commission. So 45 North is doing that, but they just haven't submitted it yet. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion and review before I review their application and sign off on it. So I don't have to wait another month if they turn it in next week.
I don't know who they are. They're on State Road, they do the boats. Oh, okay. Boats. Okay, then I didn't know, thank you.
Are they operating now without a license?
I'm not sure. I think they may be. So that's why they're coming in to get an application.
But if they're operating now without a license and they still haven't turned a license application in, that doesn't bode well, I don't think.
There's actually a lot that may be operating with a license. We're trying to get them to operate with a license. So it's basically us saying, hey, you have to submit a license. They didn't know about it. So a lot of these companies, we've only basically had 4 or 5 ever really turn in applications throughout the year. So there's, we're trying to reach out to those that may be operating, that have never submitted a license before or came for a license before to apply.
I don't see why, I mean, I'm pleased that they're asking for they're taking the application. I didn't realize that they did much work at the launch. They do, then we allow 6 permits. We only have 4 out. I'm in favor. They're getting 4.
Do we have any idea how many boats they're launching?
I don't know. I don't know if you know.
I don't know, we don't. And that hasn't become a problem until this season, and really been pointed out to us that there is a little bit of not shenanigans, but against the rules. But that's why we're hoping that Bob can spend more time down there letting us know how that works out. So keep track of those guys, Bob.
One of the things you're doing is you're expecting a business to have $5 bills. Every time a truck leaves the business with a boat, somebody grabs a $5 bill and they stop and they fill out the envelope and they put the envelope in the truck and they launch the boat and then they're gone. So you know what the alternative to that is? They just come and launch the boat and leave. If you give them a permit, you'll get the money up front
Right.
and they'll continue to do what they've been doing.
Oh,
Well, the boat would still need the trailer would still need a permit.
Yeah, all the trailers 45 are they would buy us.
well, a lot of these guys, like Riding Marine is doing rental boats.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, is doing rental boats.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing much ballet.
I'm just asking what kind of boats 45 North is launching, not in terms of brand, but rental boats, valet boats, or their own. Because that makes a difference, right?
That's what
I would
Yeah,
guess they're their
$400
customers'
license.
boats.
Customers' boats that they
Customers'
detail
boats.
and maybe not some mechanical work on.
Yeah.
Which
But every one of
that's a
them-
commercial transaction,
Mhm.
and that's what we require to have a commercial permit. If you're doing a commercial transaction, either on or off site.
Right, right.
Whether or not you're doing the ballet.
Right,
So-
right.
So,
And each
Well, for
trailer
valet,
needs
they
to-
gotta have their own permit.
Exactly,
But
each
trailer
trailer
has
should have a sticker.
Each trailer should have a sticker on their rental boats.
Well, the rental boats probably, no.
That's an- I mean, that's the first time we've gone into that.
Our setup was to make sure every trailer that went down there
Trailer has one.
had a permit on
Had
it,
a permit, yeah.
whether it's a seasonal one or
Yeah.
a daily operating deal on it.
And if you're doing it as a commercial venture, you need a permit.
And
Then you
a
need the
license
permit
on
too.
top. You need the commercial license.
So
and one of the reasons we changed the rules and to, instead of limiting it to 4 commercial licenses, was we would assess what kind of congestion is going on at Ford Park to see if they could continue to uphold the capacity. The problem is let's say we do deny the application, which any application in the future we deny, it's still up to us to catch, the people are still gonna do it. It's up to us, how we're gonna catch them. You know, Bob, no offense to you, you're not there 24/7. Sometimes these people operate on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when, you know, you're there on a weekend. So
You answered the question. We need to enforce the same rules that everybody else. They need to have a sticker on their crate.
Absolutely. You know, I look at this, I'm glad the applicant's coming forward. His motivation, who knows, but at least he's coming forward with that. He's been doing business down there and we haven't had comments or complaints about congestion with what he's been doing that I'm aware of. So if we allowed him to come in now, it wouldn't change what's been happening in Fort Park. We wouldn't see an increase or a decrease because he's been doing this. So I'm inclined to recognize he's trying to do the right thing. And then we can review this every year as we go on.
Yeah, the goal was to reach out to all these companies and have them come one time in the spring to the Harbor Commission for a special meeting. And it just hasn't worked out that way because they've come in late applications, but that was our goal, was we can review all licenses at one meeting and say, all right, 10 is too many, but we can maybe do 5 or 6 or whatnot. That was the intent. So anyway.
Can I ask you a question? Is there anything posted anywhere that advises people who might want to apply for licenses that they need to come by such and such a date to make that application?
We've posted it on I don't know if it's on our website, but we have reached out, what we did was we reached out to different companies to tell them about that. I don't know, maybe we could put something on our harbor marine regulations, but page.
What about a sign at Fort Park next year that says any commercial activity requires a license? I mean, then nobody can say, I didn't know that. I mean, if they get down there and they don't have one, then at least there's something posted that says they need it.
Better if they could do it in advance though, so they're not always.
No,
yeah,
that would be both.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's a good idea.
You're right.
And that should be right where they turn in off the street,
Yeah.
where the parking
Before they get
regulations
down
are.
there.
And they get in.
Under the park. rule.
Bob, I think you're hearing that. I mean, would you be okay if those guys were all right? Because it's been working down there
Yeah,
and it hasn't really changed
Yeah.
your game or our game, so to
your
speak.
signage about pay
Yes,
and where to pay is lacking.
it's confusing.
People come and and where I say, have you paid? They were paid, why? And, they're out of towners.
We were just talking about that at Fort Park meeting.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe there's a better place. for you to
There
do
used to
that.
be bigger, more prominent signage and how to do it.
We write a lot of tickets down there and a lot of it's just education. Some people are blatantly violating the law, but there's a lot of them that just can't figure it out. I would agree.
In this case, this company's doing the right thing, following the rules that maybe they didn't know or maybe they did, doesn't matter. But each one we get off the books that don't do it right will make your next steps easier, and I say yes.
Jim.
Is that a motion, Laura? Do we
Okay, I didn't know we
I
had one.
think
get
we can
his
get Joe,
opinion.
because I'm the one who signed off on it, so I'm just getting Harbor Commission.
So are you comfortable with a consensus or
Yeah.
it seems like I haven't heard anybody say no yet, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Any other new business? There really isn't. So how about comments from commissioners at the table before we move on?
I probably should have brought this up under old business, but I had made a proposal that we allocate a space to let people do a short-term parking to unload a paddleboard or a kayak from the top of their car, close to probably the southwest corner of Fort Park right now, to allow people to unload and then go repark the car afterwards. Right now, those of us who do it kind of sneak on and hope that nobody like Bob yells at us and Mary Jane, and then we pull off. But we asked that the city look at that, the appropriate bottom for allowing somebody to pull in without destroying the grass, just to temporarily unload. So I haven't heard anything more about it, so I was curious where we were with that. But I'd really like to see that happen
Yeah.
sooner than later, not wait for the redo of Fort Park for it to happen.
Okay, I'll follow up with staff on that one. I was out for a month, so I'm not sure if it got lost in the weeds.
That's fine.
Was
Thank
that a
you.
motion that was approved at the commission table? I know you talked about that and then we
I know
formed
we
that
actually-
commission.
Yeah.
I don't think we acted it as a board. As an individual commissioner, we can't direct staff to do what we
Right.
want. So
Can I make a motion?
I don't think
Need a
it's
motion?
Lucas was gonna look into
Yeah.
a gravel alternative versus doing an asphalt parking, so it'll actually drain
Mhm.
where asphalt won't. So especially in that, as wet as that area can be at times, so
So I don't know
We're
where
gonna
to end
ask
up on
about
that.
anyway.
I haven't followed
that unfortunately kind of fell,
Yeah.
off the charts.
This is us recommending to them and we have, so.
Right.
it's-
So we'll look into it and we can bring something back
Thank you.
and then you guys can decide.
I think that's probably more appropriate than just jumping right into it on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Any other comments from the table? And I thank you all for coming. Our next meeting is August 9th, and we are adjourned.
Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. I'm sorry, you guys. Unbeknownst to me, we've been awarded a 75% grant from the state of Michigan to replace our existing pump out. I applied for this almost a year and a half ago and kind of heard by word of mouth that we've been awarded a grant. I got a hold of whoever was in charge and he said, oh yeah, I was gonna send you the contract. So we are gonna be signing an agreement with the state at our Hubbard, excuse me, the city council meeting in the 18th. And that's a 75% of the $6,500 system, which will give us a brand new system and we'll keep the old one as a backup in case this one ever quits. But yeah, and it's to the same company. It's the exact same system we have right now. So
The grants through the DNR and then they were funded
It's,
the US Fish.
Michigan Sea Grant along with the US Fish and Wildlife. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Be good to have a backup.
Yep.